Hi everyone, welcome to Theme 3. This video is for 3.1 Business Objectives and Strategy. It's the first of 6 videos in Theme 3. We're going to look at corporate objectives, theories of corporate strategy, SWOT analysis, and impact of external influences. This is, to be honest, I think that 3.1.2 is the most important topic in the entire course. And I'll explain why when I get to it. But for now, let's start with corporate objectives. So what is a corporate objective? Well, corporate effectively means the entire business. And so we could have corporate objectives that are for the whole company. We could have functional objectives that are for individual departments within an organization. So if you think about like the marketing department, they'll have their own objectives. The finance department will have their own objectives, human resources, etc., etc. But corporate objectives are for the entire business. And so if we think about objectives and their kind of part within a business's kind of, forward planning and thinking, objectives come kind of second in the list behind the aims of a business. So an aim is the sort of long-term vision for a business, like the long-term goal, what they want to achieve. That could be to be the biggest in the world in their industry. It could be to have the most market share. It could be to, be a world leader in their field. It could be a variety of different things, but that'll be their overall aim. So long-term aim. The objectives are the targets that help them get there. So you would set objectives for maybe, an objective could range in any length of time. An objective could be a 6-month objective. It could be a 6-year, 10-year objective. But it's a target. And the idea is if you meet that target, it will help you meet the overall aim of the business. So if your aim is to become the number one business in that market, you can't just say that that's your aim and then just suddenly achieve it. You have to do things on the way to that aim. And so you might set a series of objectives that would help you get there. In order to help you with the objectives, you need a strategy. So these are our medium to long-term plans that help reach our objectives. Again, if you have a target, say for example, if your target is 12% market share, just because you've said that's your target doesn't mean you're going to be able to achieve it. So there has to be steps in between. And those steps, kind of the plan you would put in place would be your strategy. And then your tactics are the day-to-day actions that form part of that strategy. So the idea is, objectives have a place in this, but there's far more to it than just setting targets. And I think this is the case as human beings as well. If you have a target for a certain grade in your A-level, then fantastic. But just saying that you want to get a B or an A doesn't mean you're going to do it. You've got to do things about it. If I say that I want to, learn how to become a good three-point shooter in basketball, me saying that is kind of irrelevant if I don't back it up by actually practicing or doing certain things to help me kind of become better. Now, we know what the objectives are for most businesses. The objectives are things like profit maximization. We studied these in business objectives in Theme 1, but you're not going to necessarily portray yourself that way. So what you would quite often do is put in place a mission statement. So a mission statement is where you kind of turn your aim into a kind of a statement that is supposed to inspire. Usually it's aimed at your employees. So it might be, for example, a message to your employees about how you want the company to run, what you want the values to be, might link to your culture. But sometimes these can be public facing as well. And so quite often will be on their website. So it might be something that's hopefully going to kind of inspire customers. So for example, Starbucks, clearly the goal for Starbucks is to be the number one coffee shop in the world, to make the most money. That's obvious. They're not going to come out and put on their website, our objective is to make loads of money, because it's going to make them look really greedy. It's going to make them look like they only care about that. So instead, their mission statement is going to say things like, in fact, I think I remember it, theirs is something along the lines of to nurture the community one cup at a time, or something like that. It's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever been on LinkedIn, when people try and kind of sell themselves in a certain way, and it's a little bit disingenuous, but that's marketing. And so a mission statement is kind of trying to turn your aim into something that doesn't make you seem like all you care about is money, even if that is the case. 3.1.2, I said before, I think this is the most important topic in the entire course. And the reason behind that is I've looked back through the papers over the last however many years since this course started. Every year there's a question that is about this topic. It's not always explicit. It doesn't always mention Ansof's matrix, but there's always a question somewhere in the 3 papers that you could link to Ansof's matrix, whether it's mentioned specifically in the question or not. So let's learn about Ansof's matrix, because I think this is the most important business model in the course. First of all, it's a matrix. So a matrix means we kind of read along the rows and down the columns to put something into one of, in this case, 4 categories. We are going to split it by product and whether the product is the existing product or a new product, and whether the market is an existing market or a new market. Now, what's worth saying is these new products and new markets don't have to be brand new for the first time, full stop. They just need to be new for this business. So we've got 4 strategies here, and pretty much any decision a business makes can fit into, certainly any marketing decision can fit into one of these 4 categories. So the first is market penetration. And this is anything you do with an existing product to existing customers to try and further develop your market share. So this could be an advertising campaign, this could be putting something on offer, anything you do to just try and get more sales from people you're already selling with a product that's already out is market penetration. And this is really, really easy to do. It's not always necessarily successful, but it's a really easy strategy to do. The second strategy, which is sticking with our existing market but a new product, is called product development. And this is where we bring out a new product or maybe amend or upgrade an existing product for the same set of customers. So for example, the iPhone, perfect example of this. The iPhone, what are we on now? The iPhone 15 maybe. That means that the previous ones were successful, so they've made more. And that makes a lot of sense because if you want to get further sales from customers and they've already bought your product and it's not something that is repurchasable, so not something you'd buy more than one of, bringing out a new version to keep up to date with innovation, to keep up to date with technology could be an easy way of getting more sales. And so if market penetration is putting an existing iPhone on sale, product development is bringing out the new iPhone. Sticking with the Apple example, since I've started committed to it, so I may as well. The next strategy, which is the existing product but to a new market, is called market development. And this is where we take a product that already exists and we try and sell it to new people. And this is probably more commonly geographic. So for example, if Apple the first time Apple took the iPhone to Asia, you're taking an existing product and you're selling it into different countries. And it allows you to expand your market audience. You could alternatively find a new use for an existing product. So we saw this quite a lot during COVID, especially with a lot of cleaning agent companies, surface wipes and what have you. They repurposed their products to just try and sell them to different people who maybe were needing to buy wipes for schools and for other public places because of COVID. Another example, sticking on that kind of theme, the concept of baby wipes became cleaning wipes because by calling them cleaning wipes instead of baby wipes, it opens them up to a wider range of potential uses and therefore a wider market. People could buy them for removing makeup, for cleaning surfaces and what have you, rather than just for kind of babies. The last of the strategies, which is where you do something completely new, is called diversification. Something totally new, a new product for a new market. And pretty much the first time any business does something, it's going to be diversification. The first time Apple released an iPhone, the first time they released a tablet, the first time they released a laptop back in the day. All of those are diversifications. And the key thing, so effectively, you can see plenty of examples in exam questions, especially they love it in a 20 marker, where you will see a business has 2 options. And those options might be to launch, a new product to a new market, or maybe to develop an existing product, and you can put those strategies in. You can mention product development or diversification. I think that's so powerful when you can do that into an exam. But the key thing here about this is Ansof's kind of theory was about risk, and the objective here is that as you move further away from what you already know, it becomes more risky. So in terms of risk, in terms of a ranking, the most risky is diversification because it's brand new. You don't know that product. You don't know if it's going to work. You might be really confident. You might have done loads of research, but you don't know that it's going to work because you've not done it before. You don't know the market. You don't know the customers. Market development is the second most risky because trying something in a new market is, you don't know whether their tastes and trends. There's a lot of theme 4 links there. You don't know whether their tastes or trends are going to kind of accept the product. Product development's the third most risky. I guess it depends really. If your Apple releasing the new iPhone, there's not really a huge amount of risk there at all. You're pretty confident it's going to be successful. The PlayStation, going from the PlayStation 4 to the PlayStation 5, product development, but yeah, I guess there's a risk they've spent loads of money on it. It could bomb, but it's not that risky because you wouldn't make a PlayStation 5 if there wasn't a successful PlayStation 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then the least risky, of course, is the existing market, existing product, market penetration, because you're already doing those things. You already know your customers, you already know your product. So that's the least risky. So try and bring that into your exam questions if you can. I think that's such an important strategy to be aware of. Make sure you know it. The other strategy in 3.1.2, there are others, like the Boston Matrix, for example, is mentioned in 3.1.2, but we cover the Boston Matrix in 1.3.5. So if you want to know about the Boston Matrix, go and find that video. The second theory here is Porter's generic strategies. We talked about Porter's theory in, I think it was the 1.1 video, where we talked about Porter's theory of competitive advantage. This is pretty much the same thing, but it focuses on the mass market and niche market. So it still goes low cost versus high differentiation, but it focuses on mass and niche. And to be honest, the only real difference here is if we've got low cost for the mass market, the niche market is just focused low cost. For the high differentiation, we've got differentiation, which is targeting the mass market with differentiation, and then focused differentiation is targeting the niche market with a differentiation strategy. What you would typically find is, they're not all as common as each other. For example, differentiation, if you're really differentiating, you might target a niche market. That could be quite likely because you might have something that is so differentiated that it can only target a certain number of people. In the low cost section, most low cost products are mass market. It's less common that you'd get a focused low cost product, because quite often to tailor something to a niche market requires a little bit more spending, and therefore it is difficult to keep costs low when you're doing that. But effectively, this strategy is the same theory as Porter's theory of competitive advantage, but with mass and niche focuses. So I typically teach the theory of competitive advantage a little bit more stringently, because I think the most important thing is the difference between low cost and differentiation. But it is helpful to know mass and niche market stuff as well. SWOT analysis. I don't think SWOT analysis needs a huge amount of introduction, really. SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The key thing with this is to know that strengths and opportunities are both positive, weaknesses and threats are both negative, and our strengths and our weaknesses are internal. So these are things that are the situation with our business now. And so you could say, for example, that a strength could be a brand image, but a weakness could be that you don't have a wide range of products. That is something about the business right now, but both positive and negative. The external factors are the opportunities and threats, and these are things that potentially in the future could be good for us, positive opportunities, or could be bad for us, threats. Things like competition could be a threat. Technological change could be both an opportunity and a threat, depending on whether you're on top of it. So there's a variety of different factors here that would be strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But I don't think there's any need to go through these in real much detail. I think it's just kind of key to understand that strengths and weaknesses are our position now. Opportunities and threats are our position in the future. The impact of external influences, there's two parts to this. The first is the pestle analysis. Political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. These are just a range of different factors that can impact on a business from outside. An external influence is something outside of a business's control that will influence or impact on their business. And so political could be, a change in political party could see a range of different regulations coming in. Economic, changes to, we did this in 2.5, changes to the economy in terms of exchange rates, interest rates, inflation, unemployment, tax. All of those factors are going to have an impact on a business. And so being aware of those is really important. Social deals with things like trends, like fashion, changes to demographics. So an aging population, a population that, fashion is obviously very, very cyclical. So you can see fashion in certain areas, they might come and go. Technological, we've seen businesses be born out of technological change. We've seen businesses die because of technological change. We've seen, in my lifetime, we've seen us go from VHS videos to DVDs to Blu-ray to streaming. I don't know what's next, but I'm sure there'll be something, because I'm only 34. And so if we've seen 4 different iterations of that, I'm sure there's more to come. So technology can be both a good thing and a bad thing. It depends really on whether your business is threatened by technology, or whether, we talked about this in opportunities and threats, or whether your business can potentially do well out of it. Legal law changes, that could be anything from, we did legislation in 2.5 as well. Legislation could be things like minimum wage changing, which could have a huge impact on costs. It could be regulations that mean that a business needs to redesign their products. There's a variety of different things that could be. And environmental, we'll touch on this in the 3.4.4 ethics section a little bit. But environmental factors and is a really, really important concept for a lot of consumers who are concerned about climate change. And so businesses need to make sure that they're doing their bit for the environment. But also, if you use a resource that is an unsustainable resource, you need to make sure you've got it to be able to use. The main new theory in 3.1.4 is Porter's 5 forces. So another Michael Porter theory. Love Michael Porter theory. Porter's 5 forces was effectively looking at a series of 5 different external factors that affect how competitive and how easy it is to be competitive within a market. So the first of these, I'm going to do these as a bit of a diagram. The first of these is the rivalry amongst competitors. And so in some markets, this can be really, really significant. Some markets have several really large competitors. Others have hundreds of really small competitors. So understanding how some markets don't have any competitors at all. Understanding how much rivalry there is the first factor. Then we'd have a look at how likely it is that new people can join the market. So threat of new entrants. Markets that require a huge amount of investment, there's a little bit of protection there. So you are quite resisted against that force if it's something that's really expensive to set up in. But like you take the coffee shop market, for example, really easy to enter. You just go and start a coffee shop. You can just open one of those with not a huge amount of cost. Whereas if you wanted to set up like a aircraft manufacturer, that's going to be really, really difficult. As well as the threat of new entrants, there's also the threat of substitutes. And so with travel, this is a good one because if you take, for example, cars, there's a lot of alternatives to cars. You could get a train, you could ride a bike, you could fly depending on where you were going. There's a variety of different there's, I guess, taxis count as well. So because there's a large threat of substitutes, that might mean that it's more difficult to compete in that market. Whereas if there isn't any alternative use or alternative option, then you might be a little bit more protected. We also have the bargaining power of suppliers and buyers. And so the key thing with this is it's just about the quantity and how powerful they are. For example, if there's many, many buyers, then the buyers have little power and the business has more power. If there are many suppliers, then a business can say to one supplier, look, if you don't give us the right price, we can go elsewhere. If there's only one supplier that supplies a good or a resource at a really high quality, then the supplier has bargaining power, which means they can then make more kind of bold decisions with their pricing. So the key thing with those 5 forces is, you need to know all 5 because they could come up in a question. They could be mentioned specifically. They could mention a specific one. So just make sure you know what they mean. To be honest, you just really need to know what they mean because the case study should tell you the rest. These presented without comment are kind of useless. You need to have a look at the market in particular. So you might find it useful to do like a market analysis of a couple. When I teach this, we typically look at the airline market as a really good example. But you could do it with any market really and have a look at, okay, how much power have the buyers got? How much power have the suppliers got? How much rivalry is there? What is the threat of new entrants? What is the substitute list available? That's 3.1. Hopefully you found that useful. Have a look at all the other Theme 3 videos on the channel and also Themes 1, 2, and 4. They're all up there now. So have a look at those and ask if you've got any questions in the comments. And I will see you next time.